basically what you're doing is you're assembling Tunic 3, 1 or 2 E-pots, maybe arsenaling the fire breathing at some point, and trying to get to your turn with 3 or 4 blues in hand, and you're presenting upwards of 18 damage at any one point.
On this channel, there are no mistakes ever allowed.
No. Well, not when I'm on it, right? I mean, come on.
Oh, that was just so nice. Welcome back to Hometown TCG. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys know me. My name is Josh, and I got a special guest today.
Yo, Easton Douglas here, also known as Tealwater.
And Easton, a prominent member of Team Hometown TCG ASCENT, accomplished a feat this weekend that I would say it's fair to say I'm extremely jealous of your feat. What did you do, dude?
So I took down a 47-person skirmish with the hero Iyslander.
All right, so we got an
Ice.
Iyslander win. Is it Iyslander or Iyslander? I think it's just Iyslander, right? Like that's what it's meant to
I've
be.
heard people pronounce it Iyslander. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it's meant to be. Who knows?
Iyslander, I don't know. Yeah.
Dude, I mispronounce cards. There's a reason I don't do box openings is because A, I'm not that entertaining with just opening packs, and B, I know I'm gonna mispronounce every card all the time. It's gonna be horrible.
Right.
But you took down a ProQuest with this brand new hero, and I feel like most of the community looks at this and is like, how do I build this deck? Because I know that's what I do, and you have a build. And what do you think? What strategy did you go with when you picked up Iyslander? Were you like, how'd you decide to build her?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same thought. Like, it's such a deck building challenge, which I love. I'm all about deck building in this game in particular. When I looked at Iyslander, I said, this looks like kind of like a control hero to me.
Mhm.
It doesn't have as much burst arcane damage as Kano, so I don't want to really rely on that. In fact, I want to really rely on people's experiences with Kano to get them a little bit scared of my potential, even though I'm sort of sitting back and doing this sort of like biding my time, building up resources, picking my spot, and then ultimately pick one big pivot point to kind of turn the game on its head.
Okay, so you've got this thing down to a science. You've got down to a science, and you just mentioned that you love the deck building process, and I'm gonna a little bit of a tangent here to point out there were 2 Ascent winning skirmish decks this weekend out of like I think it was like 3 or 4 events, and both of them built by you. Is that not correct?
That's true. The Viserai, which my teammate Bova took down a skirmish in Florida with. I mean, Viserai, it's pretty clear what a lot of the good cards are. There are maybe like 5 or 6 flex spots, I would say, for what I think is an optimal list. And I think I did choose good flex slots, but
No, dude,
maybe a little bit less impressive than Iyslander
no,
deck
take
building.
the humbleness and push it down, push it deep down. Now is when you brag. You got 2 winning lists that
I'm
you
the best
built.
deck builder of all time.
Let's go. Okay, so let's get into the people here want to see your list. They want to see your take on Iyslander. So let me pop over and let us take a look at your list. So we got an Iyslander list here, and we are starting with your equipment. Now, there are tons of choices for equipment in Iyslander, and normally we kind of breeze through an equipment section, but on this one, I don't think we can. Maybe certain pieces here and there, but starting with the weapons, you are running
Yeah.
both weapons. What's up with that?
True. Yeah, so I think you're right. This is like the most important thing is knowing which weapon is correct in which matchups. And
Okay.
I'll just give a brief rundown for people. What I've found is that Kraken is optimal against Rune Blades, Brutes, Mechanologists, and as well as the Iyslander Mirror. And then Crucible is really good against Guardians, Warriors, and Ninjas, as well as against Kano. And then I just don't really know about Rangers yet. I haven't really played against them. Not too popular out here in the scene. But I
Yeah.
think picking the right weapon is like night and day. If you pick the wrong one, I think it's much harder to win the game.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
we have your Crucible for certain matchup. We have Krakens for certain matchups. And while people have seen Crucible for some time now, I want to spend a little bit of time here on Krakens. This weapon I think is sweet, but on the surface doesn't really do much. I mean, it's kind of cool, but doesn't do a whole ton. Well, what made you fall in love with this weapon?
Well, I did exactly fall in love with this weapon. When I saw this spoiled, I mean, this is the card that made me want to play this hero more than anything else. It's just, man, it really speaks to me as a gamer. It's just this tiny little poke, little incremental advantage, kind of a timing thing, kind of putting your opponent into a situation where they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. It's so good against decks that do not who really wants like 4 and 5 card hands, who really
Hmm.
like arsenals, and who are also like to basically pitch 1 blue and use the entirety of that blue on their turn.
Right.
Um, decks like that it hasn't been as good against are decks like Kasai, where they tend to have leftover resources, work well on low cards, things like that. But it's insane against matchups like Viserai, where they really crave that 4 or 5 card hand. Um, and they also again pitch 1 blue and use all of it. They don't have extra resources. One
Okay.
thing that I think is a little subtle about Kraken is that you can do it twice per turn cycle. So even though it's a once per turn thing, it's a once per turn instant.
Hmm.
And so if you're able to ever do an activation on their turn as well as yours, you're putting your opponent to a really, really tough spot.
Yeah, you can leave them in this weird spot where they have leftover floating pitch and then kind of present the same problem to them again. So they lose the access to that leftover floating pitch at the end of their turn, enter your turn, present the same problem, maybe just for some small minuscule advantage, and put them to a decision point. I'm with you. Crown of Seeds, Shock Charmers, and this card have all got me out of my seat when I've seen them,
Yeah,
just because like
all cool
I'm with
cards.
you. Yeah, it's the incremental advantage. So I love to see that in this list, and I finally have an excuse to play my cold foil one. So I am just all
Really
in.
good. It's really good. Not only that, but like your opponent, like you said, they have to have those floating resources left over. So if they do, I just don't activate it. And then they just like probably sacrifice some number of damage output to have those leftover resources, and then it all went to waste. And likewise, if I play an arcane damage spell on their turn and they have 2 leftover resources, what are they going to do? Are they going to pitch away 1 or 2 of it? Are they going to leave the floating resource and take extra damage? Your opponent's just in a lot of awkward situations playing against that card and this deck.
Right, and that seems like a theme. We put our opponent to a lot of weird and awkward decision points with the way we're able to interact in such a unique fashion. But there are some staples in this equipment setup that I see that in Blitz they just seem good. And the staples I'm talking about are the skull cap, the tunic, and the gambler's gloves. In the Blitz scene, these just seem like great staples.
Yeah, KO's scary. KO's really scary. I
So
think Gambler's
scary.
gloves are. I haven't actually tested the Gambler's gloves there, but I kind of had an extra slot, so I figured why not throw it in there. Tunic is your main chess piece as well as skull cap. Really, really good. I think a lot of the other equipment's pretty straightforward to see like where it goes in. Probably the most kind of niche thing is that Ironhide gauntlets replace Metacarpus nodes against certain warriors, for example. I only have the Ironhide legs against Benji in particular. Stormstriders are absolutely incredible, and they really, once they're in play, I mean, for the entire game, as long as they're in play, which is usually until the very ending turn, your opponent has to just be so scared.
And an absolutely underwhelming fact about Stormstriders that I discovered playing, member of the team Mo Bogsley, we played the Hometown Throwdown, and we played some Iyslander versus Kano on our stream. We got a chance to match up. First of all, Heart of Ice into Kano is an MVP. We put our opponent to
Not
a
fair, not
decision
fair.
point. Well, we put them to a decision point right away. On Heart of Ice activation, are you going off or are you not? And if you go off,
Yep.
I get the opportunity to react with my full set of resources in hand. Heart of Ice is just great. And then I always forget Stormstriders has AB1. Like
Yep.
that's or
AB,
AB2, sorry.
AB2.
AB2.
Yeah, yeah. They're incredible. Yeah,
Yes, that is
yeah.
something I never consider. I very rarely play the Wizard Mirror, and it was just very cool. So, like you said, you got the Iron Hides in here, you got the Metacarpus nodes, you do have the Null Rune Hood. Is that coming in against Viserai?
No, so Viserai, you're already going to be running your Stormstriders and Metacarpus nodes. That's more than enough
Mm,
Arcane Barrier.
perfect.
Nullrune Hood is just for the Wizard Mirrors. And let me just tell you, I think that Iyslander has a really hard time losing against Kano because it does have AB5 as well as the Heart of Ice. That's just so much protection. And then I also have physical threats that I can kind of
Yes.
throw at my Kano opponent that they're not really well suited to be able to deal with. So I think that's a really good matchup for Iyslander.
Well, that's an awesome equipment wrap up. And you transitioned before I do. I am the king of transitions, and you just out transitioned me,
I
dude.
tried.
You have awesome physical threats. So let's step down into this list and talk about kind of some of the key cards that stick out. And you mentioned physical threats off the bat. So let's start there. And I'm going to start with we're looking at this list at the top line. I'm seeing Enlightened Strikes, Exude Confidences, and I'm seeing 2 copies of Fire Breathing.
That's the best card in the deck. Fire breathing.
Talk to me, my guy. What is up?
Okay.
What is going on?
I'm going to give a brief thing about E-Strike. E-Strike is amazing. You'll use all the modes. Going E-Strike Go Again into an arcane damage spell is hilarious and just actually quite good. Uh,
I never
uh,
considered that. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
No, I did a lot of E-Strike Go Again into Voltic Bolt for 6 or whatever. It was really fun. Uh, and then Exude Confidence, just a bad fire breathing, but it's nice to have another one of those. The deck is so blue heavy. And then the threats that I've seen people try in the past, real quick, is Red Frostfang. I think it's
Mhm.
too easy to block with their 1/2 block equipment and a 3 block, only committing 1 card in that 1/2 block that they brought into the matchup. It's just too bad, I think. And
Okay.
Command and Conquer is very strong, but Kraken Aethervein does such a good job of hating out arsenals that I just found it wasn't necessary. And what I would prefer is something like a Fire Breathing, where it's really like an integral part of the game plan. This is like the pivot card. Basically, what you're doing is you're assembling Tunic 3, 1 or 2 E-Pots, maybe arsenaling the fire breathing at some point, and trying to get to your turn with 3 or 4 blues in hand, and you're presenting upwards of 18 damage at any one point, which you can either commit or not. If they overblock it, you say, great, I'm going to Kraken you. You don't have any leftover cards to pay for this. Get an extra damage. Arsenal an arcane damage spell. You have no cards in your turn. Time to go off with arcane damage. So it's like this 1 turn cycle where your opponent only has 4 cards and you have 8 cards, oftentimes even like 9 or 10 cards, because you have the E-Pot, you have these extra resources. Um, and so you're able to just push so much awkward damage and decision points that they have no choice but to take just a ton of damage.
Dude, I so I know you're looking at your deck list, and we might not be like sitting next to each other talking face to face. You just blew my mind. You just presented an 18 damage fire breathing turn with the
Or
option
not. Or not. Or maybe only for 3.
with the option to pivot into another source of damage or something
Yeah.
else halfway through the turn based on your opponent's interaction. I I suddenly love this card. What did you just do to
Yeah.
my brain? What did you
You
just do, dude?
how about this one? You go into your turn, you have like the fire breathing that you play with the blue, and you have an E-Pot, you have a Tunic 3, right? And you have like 2 other cards. And they say, they say, okay, well, you could push up to like 15 damage or something, and I'm at 12, so they overblock it a bunch. So
Sure.
you go, I'll cast a sigil, gain 3 life, activate Kraken, deal you 1, draw, arsenal this card, don't pop my E-Pot, don't pop my Tunic, go to your turn, you have no cards in your hand, like I was saying, and then you can output so much damage. So like if you can get the game to this spot, it's really hard to lose.
Bro, that is just what an insane line, and I absolutely love that, guys. If you're out there and you play this deck, in the comment section below, let me know your fire breathing plays. Build this deck, come back to this video, let me and Tealwater know, because I'm telling you, man, you just blew my mind. I have to
It's
get
so
off
fun.
fire breathing. I'll talk about it all day
It's so
long.
fun. I will talk about fire breathing all day long, so you need to force me off it.
This
It's
is a
so fun.
problem.
It's
So
so
you
fun.
mentioned Sigil. I like Sigil in here. And then we have, moving on to line 2, we got a couple things that I think are more likely to be seen in almost all these different Iyslander lists. We got, your Blizzards, your Snapbacks, your Voltic Bolts, the Tome of Findel, and then some defense reactions in that line on your sink below. Pretty standard interaction. You got Blizzard, you're trying to play this control game. Tell me a little bit about something special about one of those cards. What's kind of some spice here? Or is this all pretty standard?
Yeah, I'd probably cut the Tome of Findel. It's pretty good in some matchups, but it's only really good if you have Kraken, so you can go into your turn with like a Tunic 3, and then like Tome from Arsenal, gain 2 life, Kraken them, Arsenal the best card. It's like a cute little play, but I think it's not quite good enough. I think
Okay.
probably the best thing I can say is just like Blizzard and taking that into just the whole ice package. I think not including a very robust ice package is a huge mistake for this hero. It's just incredible. If you want to try to be like OTK, then great, you can go in that direction. I feel like at that point, why not just be Kano? What Iyslander has to offer is this incredible potential of Blizzard saying just on command, like, hey, I'm going to take a blue from you or else your turn's over. Or Channel Lake Frigid, I'm going to take your turn, basically. Like, if I ever Arsenal a Channel Lake Frigid and then get it out there, get the Frostbite mid-turn, and then go to my turn and pitch an ice to Channel Ice and get it for like 2 or maybe even 3 turns,
Right.
the game's just like almost over at that point. This is the strength of Iyslander, I think.
You've almost created a 3-turn cycle Channel Lake Frigid starting, well, like 2.5, but starting when it matters most on your opponent's turn when they're trying to interact with you. That I think that's a pretty core play of this deck, but it's really cool to see you be able to go wide and include these physical strategies as well as something in depth like that. Interesting cut on the Tome of Findel. And then just real quick, moving back up to line 1, another staple that we kind of glossed over because I was so amazed by the fire breathing play that I can't bring up because we'll talk about for another 20 minutes, is the Emiratis scolding. See, this is why I
Yeah,
say I don't
Emeritus, I think.
Emeritus.
Emeritus.
I don't
I'm not
open
sure,
boxes
but
because I can't read card names
that's
out loud,
certainly
dude.
the way I've been pronouncing it for a while. So hopefully,
This card,
um,
when I played, was an MVP.
oof,
What did you feel about
oh
it?
my
You
god.
just gotta love this card, right?
Oh my god, the blue is just incredible. The ability to with Crucible in your deck do 5 at instant speed for only 1 blue's worth is amazing. It's the card like you really should be trying to make sure you arsenal and cast that card. You know, both copies every game basically. And the
Yes.
red is a ton of damage for really cheap. I mean 6 base when you Storm Striders it as like the finishing blow, and then you can Metacarpus and Crucible it as well.
Yep.
It's just a lot of extra damage. I had Forked Bolt in the slot for a bit, but I just found that the base 3 resource cost was just a little bit too high to make those turns go out pretty smoothly.
Okay, and both these, it's
Yeah.
fun to mention, both these can be played off Energy Potion, which kind of takes us down to the
Yep.
next line of the list, where you kind of dug into this. You skipped ahead of me because you think faster than I do when it comes to Fab. That's why you're the pro team player, and I'm the content creator. We do have a couple of these ice cards. We talked about the Channel Lake Frigid play. You are playing Icy Encounter. It's got a cool hit effect. It is a frost card, so you love to see that. The Heart of Findel here. I mean, you need blues. It doesn't block. It does get a little life back. Is that something you're thinking of cutting, or you love it in the list?
I love the Heart of Fendel. You start at 18 life, so if you draw it in your opening hand with either of your weapons, you have a free ability to pitch it, and get that free life gained and draw it back up. It's really good. It's a blue. The deck is a little high on no blocks as well as 2 blocks, so
Okay.
it can be a liability. I had one really awkward hand in the semifinals where it was a very close turn because my hand was like a bunch of no blocks and I had to find a way to try to navigate out of the situation. Icy Encounter is really an overperformer. It's definitely like the worst ice card, but it's, as a blue, a 4 on hit is just really good, and they only bring in 1 piece of blocking equipment against you. And so
Okay.
usually Icy Encounter or E-Strike, these can kind of like clear the way so that the fire breathing is max scary.
I
Um,
God,
yeah.
that's so cool. That's such tech. I noticed here you also have Rousing Aether for the 2 arcane damage to a target hero, and the next buffing the next source of arcane you do in a turn. And then you have the energy potions for those big setup turns. Can be played out of arsenal like we talked about. Rousing Aether, how has that performed for you?
It's sort of it's good first cycle of the deck with snapback. If
Hmm.
you Arsenal a Rousing Aether, then it's a pretty straightforward 6 damage on their turn, only using the 1 Arsenal card and then 2 cards from your hand. It's pretty good. It's a little bit of a placeholder. You want to have a high enough density of these arcane damage blues that when you do your big fire breathing play, and you draw back up when they have 0 cards, you need to make sure you have the arcane damage spell to really push that extra damage.
Okay.
So, I wish there was a better. I wish I could run a million blue Emeritus Scoldings, but I think this is the next best one, basically. Voltic Bolt is the next best one, but this is the third.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like we got a good reason for it. I'm all in on it as far as I'm concerned. Like we said, we get the energy potion for setting up, and then finally getting to the bottom of the list. I've seen Winter's Bite's pretty common. It's a cool ability to be able to be played
Free
on
block.
your opponent's turn. Give your no Winter's Bite. Sorry,
Winter's Bite. I'm
Winter's
sorry.
Bite. Yeah,
Winter's
yeah.
Grasp. Winter's Bite.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Winter's Bite just goes out there. It takes a resource or a card from your opponent. It offers a Frostbite token. You are playing 2 Scour and 2 copies of This Round's on Me. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
talk me through the 2 Scour. The 2 This Round's on Me. You guys, those who don't know, Team Ascent sold me on This Round's on Me at the ProQuest. Or not the ProQuest, at the Calling Indie. You're gonna have to sell me on 2 copies of Scour here. Go.
Yeah, gladly. I feel like those 2 cards as well as Unmovable are some of the maybe the strangest picks, but those are basically all metagame calls. I should be more specific. They're just cards that are so good in certain matchups,
Okay.
and the opportunity cost of running them is so low because they're a blue 3 block that I just feel like I am priced into running them. I would never cut either of the 2 Scours. Your Viscerai opponent. I mean, it's already a good matchup, but they can still win. But
Mm-hmm.
the fear of two Scours to just blow up all of their arcane damage is just incredible. I played an online Blitz event with Scour, and my opponent went turn one, create 10 rune chance, and I went to my turn, pitched 3 blues, and scoured them for 9. It's just that potential is just. It's just crazy. Guardians are getting a lot of seismic surges too. You can blow up other channel lake frigids, for example. Like you can do a lot. I think this says non. Does it say
It's
non-token or
cost was 0. Cost
zero?
of
Okay,
0. So
not channel lake frigids
nah,
then, but
I wish.
you can
I'm
do.
all
Yeah,
in.
I know. I just thought of that just now. I was like, hey, channel lake frigid. Maybe I can blow that up. But
I
yeah,
like that you're throwing
scour.
curveballs in the live interview too. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. I mean, this hero is just a ton of fun to explore.
So
So
much fun.
Scour, it's just a blue 3 block, and then Viscerize can't beat that card. And then this round's on me. Again, Benji just can't really beat that card. I think Benji can be maybe pretty close because I am trying to block a lot, and it's just incredible there. And against some other heroes, it's good. And then I was a little bit scared of Warriors as well as Guardians going into this tournament, so that's where
Hmm.
the 2 unmovables came from.
Okay. Well, I love them. And then you did touch on the Winter's Grasp. It's been a staple on this channel. The Winter's Grasp, the Autumn's Touch, and then the what is it? What's the lightning one? Heaven's Claws. Those have been, when we saw those cards on this channel very early, we're like, oh, they're elemental cards, and these are the ones that block for 3. These are the
Yep.
chaff that will be thrown in these decks that will fill kind of those voids. So this is awesome. I love this list. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be taking this list and playing the absolute bejesus out of it. So,
Heck yeah.
absolutely sorry. I'm going to let the whole community know what your list is. So you're gonna
No,
have to come
no,
up with
I'm
some
happy
extra
about it.
spice. What is some of the most fun you've had with this deck, and what were some of the notable cards that you couldn't include that you maybe wanted to?
Yeah, so the answer to the first question would be, I don't know, man, just getting to the spot where I'm finally pivoting and I'm playing fire breathing. I just play it out, and my opponent just like slowly starts to reckon with what they're about to face. They're looking at my tunic, they're looking at my e-pots, they're looking at my floating resources. They're like, how many cards in hand? What if they're all blues? Your whole deck is blues. They just it's quite the fun interaction I feel the first time they interact with it. And then so yeah, fire breathing all the way, and that's just like the most fun card in this list.
I was out,
Well,
and now
I'm
I am
one track
so
mind.
in. I'm so
I'm
in.
one track mind
I'm
over here.
so in. What are
Uh,
some cards that you wanted to include as we wrap up here? What are some cards
yeah,
you wanted to include that maybe couldn't make the cut? There's
it'd
one
be
that comes
nice
to
to
the top
get.
of my mind. I'll let you know
Oh,
that.
okay. Well, we'll start with that. Tell me.
Is it? I believe
Tell me.
is it Stir the Aether Winds, the one that lets you play your next wizard non-attack as an instant, and then deals
Yeah,
one more. The blue
yeah.
for that seems like it should have been an include here, but mind you, I'm clearly wrong because I did not even see the fire breathing play. So, what do you think about Blue Stir?
So here's the thing about Blue Stir. I did consider it. It's a 2 block.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really important. The deck already demands so many 2 and 0 blocks because of just the cards that are naturally so good with Iyslander.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to be careful about what you add. In addition, that card it costs 2. It pumps by 1. So if I arsenal that card and then like play it on my opponent's turn, then basically I'm gonna need more than a blue's worth of resources to do anything because all of my burn spells just cost 2 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found that the Storm Striders was enough reach that I can play a controlling game, chip in a little bit, and then have the one turn where I do the big instant speed, epic arcane damage play.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, just a few factors. I would say the biggest thing is that it's a 2 block. If it was a 3 block, it'd probably be in the list.
All right. Well, dude, I love your take on this. I'm gonna pop back over just you and me here. I love your take on the list. I'm so excited. What would you say to like people who want to get out and experience your deck list? Do they want to go? They want to play it at their armory. They want to play it with their friends. Speak to the people here. What would you say to those people?
Oh man, it's a really difficult deck to play.
Okay.
I had maybe like 20 games under my belt before I played in this tournament, and I'm really glad I did. But honestly, it's just so fun. The kind of lines that appear in gameplay are really interesting. Every matchup is very different. It feels like a lot of matchups are winnable. And there's something sort of satisfying about winning with sort of underpowered cards. I mean, look at the list. I mean, it looks like a pile of garbage, to be honest. Like, let's be honest.
I still have it up in front of me. It's a very
Yeah,
interesting looking list.
it looks like a pile of garbage, but man, all the little, pieces work together really, really well. And just when you're like winning with a handful of blues, it feels very fun. I don't know. And
Well,
enjoy winning with blues. That's what I should say. Believe in the blues.
believe.
There's a lot of good blues in this list. Believe in the blues.
Well, you've heard it here first. Believe in the Blues. And Teal, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. If you want to check out this list, the link will be in the video description for you to go ahead and take a look. This has just been an awesome experience for me. I can't wait to play the list. I'm sure you guys out there can't wait to play the list. If you want to follow more Team Ascent news, make sure you have the subscribe button on Hometown TCG clicked. Make sure you have notification bells. And if you want to support both myself and Team Ascent further, visit us at patreon.com/HometownTcg. This has been awesome. I'm getting to that point where I ramble, which I'm known for. And when I have a guest, it's awkward because the guest has to just sit there and be like,
I'll ramble along with you.
is he
I'll
done?
do it.
Is he? Until next time, you guys know me. My name is Josh.
I'm Easton. Don't add more reds. Believe in the blues.
Believe in the Blues, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.